All right, I hit the start button. Let me just verify that it is showing up on YouTube. Do 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 do. Live now? Yes, I am seeing it as live now. I can hear myself. Okay, good. It is working. Hello, everybody. How's all doing today? It is myself, and I want to say your name was pronounced Inajo. Is it Inajo
It's
Montoya?
Inigo.
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 That was Inajo for some reason.
That would be, yeah. We got to watch the movie again.
Inigo Montoya. I remember how he says like he's like Montoya. I remember
Yeah.
that.
He's actually a Jewish guy from Homeland. If you ever watched the movie Homeland,
Yeah, yeah.
the same actor.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Saul.
Let me see here. Okay, so wait, I guess I'm gonna pop up. What the fuck? Oh, YouTube gave me some kind of weird pop up about moderating the chat. Okay, I was like, what the fuck is happening? I thought something crashed. Never mind. We are live. How y'all doing today? Make sure you guys share the video, share the live stream link, spread the news of what we are doing. We have a new show. We still don't know what to call it, so for now it's just called our new podcast show. That's what I'm. That's what I'm going to call it until we actually think of a name for it. We are going to be doing more like, I want to say it's going to be like less political bullshit, more like an intensive like fact finding, less focusing on like the daily mainstream media drama that they like provide.
Yeah. No, I for sure. I agree.
And I think I think we both kind of agree that like what everything's been turning into lately with like the politics, like it really is turning into like a drama thing where it's just like one side versus the other side, and it just seems like that's all that dominates the news. It'll be like Trump tweets this thing and then everybody's responds to it, or someone tweets this thing and then Trump responds to it, and it just seems like that's all that's really happening lately. And
Hmm.
um, I'm definitely for like some of the things that Trump's doing. There's a lot of things I'm not for also. Like I want smaller government, less taxes. I mean, we all agree on like that type of stuff. Um,
Yeah. I just feel like, instead of the show's going to be, instead of it kind of being like catered to the person that's, I don't know, already on the line all day, researching all the same stuff, and we're just repeating what they already know. Well, I'm just trying to inform people and then, have them go back out in the world and actually do things. I
right.
mean, I mentioned last time that I'm trying to be a little involved in the Libertarian Party and the presidential campaign. So I like joined their Facebook thing so I could like follow, find out what's going on, and they keep up to date. And then like after following it, I had to like, I mean, I'm still in it, but I had to like mute it and on my app and all that stuff because it's just like it's just bickering and them just finding other people that are don't like their candidate and meme this and meme. It's like, do you guys do anything else? Like, I
Right.
don't know. I got like today I painted a couple rooms and went to Lumber Liquidators and looked for flooring, and then like I'm just staying informed. But it's not gonna be a show where it's not gonna be Tim Pool or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Tim Pool's really gone off the rails, and
has he? I haven't even mentioned.
I stopped watching Tim Pool because like every day with him, he's like out of breath as he's talking, and everything is like a big deal. And
That's what I mean. Instead of having like a family or even a girlfriend, he lives in a van. It's like, dude, like it's not that's not
he's
healthy.
becoming Tim Pool's like becoming a hobo now. He's like gonna live out of like this technology van and just like go everywhere and do stuff like report on whatever. And it's like that's fine. I guess we need on the ground reporting so we can get
Hmm.
video and
Sure.
whatever. But I feel like he's really losing his mind. Like
But he's really not doing on the ground. I mean, I guess he's doing on ground reporting, but he's still like commenting on like then spend. I wish he would spend more time doing that. Like, don't spend like every time I go on his thing, it's him reading an article. That's the stuff that I'm not really going to get into. Like, can you believe what this person said about this situation, that stuff,
Right.
instead of just like covering like the Kavanaugh thing and laughing about it, or in this case, probably Iran, like we can let you know what's going on from our perspective, but sitting here and going like getting into these bickering things that people do, or oh, this person's got the wrong opinion, or it is what it is. I mean, especially with this Iran thing, we'll get into it, but like, I mean, I have seen how quickly all the people that were like are pro-Trump and supposedly were all for this, smarter military, no nation building, cut back on sending our troops over. As soon as like he decides he's going to start a war, they're all like, "Well, it's Iran, so we got to get him." I mean, I was on you're on Reddit a lot more than me, but I'm in the Donald, and it's like all of a sudden it's 2003, like all over again, and the Iranians might as well have just done 9/11 at this point. In like 48 hours, everybody just forgot everything we've learned. Um, you
Yep.
know, so that's what I'm trying to do here is give you guys a little backstory of why this is happening and like really the nuance of what's taking place, and not just it didn't just start 2 days ago.
Yeah, and the one thing that really I noticed on the Donald is that they were posting, and I'm someone who's been on the Donald since the beginning too. So don't get me wrong, anyone listening. I've been on the Donald subreddit since probably they only had 2,000 or 3,000 subscribers. I'm the most meta person on the Donald that probably you could get that is actually like doing a podcast and talking about stuff. So I mean, I've been there from the beginning, like literally, because I was all over Reddit during the political thing about Trump, and I enjoyed the memes in the beginning and stuff, and I still do. Pepe, free Pepe. Pepe did nothing wrong. I even advocate for Pepe on RuneScape. Actually, I was playing RuneScape, telling people Pepe did nothing wrong, and Epstein didn't kill himself, and someone gave me some gold coins, and like, yeah, right on. So I was like just saying some shit, but the memes that all have like glorifying drone striking like an Iranian general. I mean, yeah, it sounds like this. Iran's our enemy, obviously. So if we drone strike them, I mean, they do death to America chants all the time. So it's understandable why everybody would be making memes about, like, yeah, fuck this guy. He was talking shit. Because apparently that general that we drone striked, how do you pronounce his name? Soleimani or something? I forgot how you say it.
It's Soleimani.
Soleimani, yeah. So Soleimani apparently tweeted something out where it was like Donald Trump, and then like another picture was like him saying "I will resist you" or something, and then like I guess that tweet was deleted. But I don't know if someone was just shit posting or not. It's hard to tell sometimes. But.
Yeah, no, he's a big deal. Like it's weird because he's been the head of he would be like the Secretary of Defense.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, we know all about Bin Laden and Al Qaeda and Al Nusra and these groups, and those are all the Sunni groups and people. Now the Shiite groups and leaders we don't really know about because a lot of them are like in the Iranian government, so they wear the suit. They got shaved beards, or the beards are at least trimmed. They're not living in the desert. They're not Bedouins. So he might just seem like a military leader, but to like the Sunni, the Shiite side of a lot of the countries in the Middle East, Hezbollah, those Lebanese people that are just Shiites, and they're related. They relate to the cause, Palestinians. The Syrian side that was resisting the our terrorists. 80% of Iraq, or I think 60% of Iraq is Shiite. He was more than that. So it's not just like we killed a random general. He's been in charge of Iran's military for, I don't know, since the 90s. And all those, if you've been following it, I guess we can get into it. But all those countermeasures that Iran puts in when we get involved in a country, like when we go into Yemen and they start backing the Houthis, or we go into
Right.
Syria and all of a sudden the Iranians. That's all him. So of course the U.S. government considers him. They want him. They want you to think he is public enemy number one to the American people,
Right.
which isn't accurate. Now he wants to kill a lot of probably Israelis and really hates the U.S. government and is in charge. And I have friends who are Egyptian, and I've asked them about like what when he's been around for so long. What do they say about him? He's a murderer. Like the other side, the everyday individual hates him. But this Iraq situation, and I did videos for a while back about Iraq. There's been a protest movement that's been growing in Iraq, kind of like Hong Kong, and that kind of led to what happened on New Year's Eve with the embassy and everything. And we can get into that, but yeah, just in terms of him, this is that's why people they are selling it as World War III, because they almost it's funny, like they're making it such a big deal that we killed this guy, but they're not explaining to anybody why he's so important, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Like, unless you're playing insider baseball, you don't know who this dude is. You're just like, wait, why is this such a big deal? Why is Iran so mad? We just killed some guy.
Yep. Well, and the other thing too, I want to add, because I saw someone make a distinction that he's not just like a general; he's a general of like what they call the religious section of like their army, who's like these fanatical people who are trying to establish like whatever they consider a caliphate. So he's like an Islamic. Because someone said that the difference between him and like the actual like elite Iran Guard or whatever they're called. There was like a different name for him. He's like the Islamic section of like the army, which is like even more fanatical about like establishing a caliphate, and the other like regular troops are like totally like different and under someone else. Like it's a different general. So like when someone says he's a general, like in the American sense, we would think, oh, okay, he's like a general of the army, or he's a general in the Navy, or whatever the distinction would be. He's like a general of like this different section of religious fanatics. So he is actually constantly stirring up trouble and doing what he can. He's not just like some regular run-of-the-mill general. He's like an advanced, up in the higher echelons of like the Iran leadership general, who is like, the elite type generals.
Well, he supports. Okay, so he reports to the Khomeini.
Khomeini himself, right?
Not the president. Now, the way you have to remember, again, this is why it's important to know like the history. So there's the Iranian government, and then there was a revolution. We all know about the revolution. We all watch Argo with Ben Affleck. We know all about that. But that was a revolution where a extremist religious sect took over the country, and that group that took over the country, that militia, became the Quds force that he's in charge of, or the Islamic Guard or Revolutionary Guard.
Revolutionary Islamic Guard, or something like that. Yeah.
So they don't just protect Iran; they protect Khomeini's control over Iran from probably the rest of the government that might want to be a little more liberalized and not be as extreme. But and you could take that either way. You could say that's a good thing, or you could say it's a bad thing, kind of like with Russia. It was the same kind of thing that happened in Russia, where you had the USSR, you had the commies who were in charge, and then there was the regular Russians, and then after they left, the Russians made all the deals and liberalized, and then they let in the Americans, and there's positives and negatives of letting in foreign investors and foreign control. So he's been stirring up trouble. But again, if you really go into it, 90%, I don't know, from what I've been, from my entire, this is what I do here. Iran is a threat to the U.S. government and the empire and their military movements in the Middle East and the allies that they allied with, Saudi Arabians, the Israelis, Egypt, not really Turkey. Like, they really have to fish to find Iranians that like when they say Iran killed Americans, this guy was responsible for Americans. That's true, but I assure you, none of those Americans were in a park in Kansas. All of them were either like right near Iran, fucking with something that was Iranian, or trying to take over a country in the Middle East. You know, it's not like, you know, anything to do, and a lot of it is our relationship with Israel. That's just a fact. Iran is their adversary, not ours. You know, people like to go back to 1979 and bring up the hostages. That was all for, you know, that entire situation started in the 50s, and that was all the Brits anyway. BP, British Petroleum, wanted to take over the oil there, and we were the, you know, the foot soldiers. So again, this trying to make this an America versus Iran and there's nobody else involved situation that's the propaganda that we're trying to cut through a little bit here.
Right. And then the other thing too I want to add, so like when the one point where you were making about how Iran like isn't targeting like some random American citizen who's like in a park who has nothing to do with like anything against Iran, you know, unlike the United States where we regularly drone strike everything and just call it collateral damage, and you know 9 out of 10 of the people killed by drone strikes just happen to be within the area and it's deemed acceptable. I mean, look at what we just did with the general. He was at an airport supposedly, and we drone striked him while he was at an airport. I mean, just think about if Iran did that to an American airport, and they had one of their drones flying over an American airport and drone striked something. If you want to think about it like that, like how much of an uproar like people would be in. So like when they chant death to America, I mean, it's not like we're not giving them ammo. Like, we're giving them ammo so that they can go back to their people and say, yeah, death to America, and they can point to that, right? They can say, look at this. They killed him at an airport. He's just... Yeah. And there's all these civilians nearby. Look at this. Right? So, like, we're giving them ammo constantly. Now, did they have to kill him at an airport with a drone strike? I mean, if they knew he was there, couldn't they have just, like, taken him out with, like a team, like, arrest him or something? I mean, it looked like it was just one car they blew up, right? So, I mean... You only need like 4 or 5 guys to like surround someone's car and shoot them up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could have shot him up that way. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that exactly. But,
no.
But like a drone strike has a chance to like kill civilians, so... And
well, they wanted to kill other people with him. And then, so, before I get into this, okay, so, hope everybody understands. Like, you have to remember... Like, again, history is so important here. And recent history. It's not we're talking about the 70s. So, everybody remembers ISIS, right? It was so long ago, ISIS. Okay. That was a little bit of a joke. But, so you have ISIS is in northern Iraq, and they control northern Iraq and eastern Syria. We chase them out of Syria mostly. They go in there into Iraq. And there was a huge... my guy Scott Horton actually calls it Iraq War III, that nobody ever talked about. Obama was president, and we worked with the Iraqi government, which is in the south of the country, which is 100% Shiite at this time in terms of power. Lots of those representatives and groups that have power in the government in Iraq direct ties to Iran. So we worked with the Iranians. This guy, exactly, Soleimani, was the head commander of not just the Iranian-influenced militias, but the Iraqi army, pretty much, unofficially. And those campaigns to liberate northern Iraq were the United States from the air and Iranian troops and Iraqi troops on the ground. So you have that. And then, after that takes place, you have all these militias. You have Shiite militias that support Iran or backed by Iran, and you have ones that are backed by the United States. You also have ones that are just straight, we're from Iraq. They're like the militias that we would consider a militia, an American nationalist, everybody get out, including the Iranians' militia. So that's been brewing since ISIS has been defeated. There's really been... Well, who's going to control this country now? Is it going to be the Americans that are still there? Is it going to be the Iranians who are still there? in terms of influence, or is it going to be the Iraqis for Iraq? Iraq for Iraqis. And the protests were started recently, and of course, when a protest starts, we all know what happens. We learned about Hong Kong and there's other protests going on in the Middle East. Also, there's one in Lebanon, by the way, conveniently, which is another Shiite situation. So what's happened is the U.S. couldn't get Iran to have a war with them via the tanker wars that took place in the summer. So what we began doing was destabilizing the governments that they have influence in. The Iraqi government, which we gave them the power pretty much by invading, and the one in Lebanon. And now there's protest movements conveniently popping up, backed by U.S. money. So there's going to be counter protests, and that has led to where we are today. So again, when we attack the airport and we blow this guy up, we're not just blowing him up. There was the leader of a militia group called the I don't know the name of the militia group, actually. I probably couldn't pronounce it if I found it. But there's a group of militia groups called the PMU, which is they're all Iraqis, but they all kind of side with the Iranians, and they kind of all work together. So these are the people that we're trying to take out. So in that car or that convoy was Soleimani, and then also this other guy.
There's a second general, right? He was a general too.
Yeah, but he's not Iranian. He's Iraqi. It's just they are the Shiite Iraqis that, ironically, since 2003, 2004, when we took over, were always connected to Iran. Like, if you watch the really terrible movie Green Zone with Matt Damon, there's a scene where they do the invasion and we take over, and then they have the meeting afterwards with all the different factions. And he's like, who's going to lead? And it's all people from Iran in suits. It's all like politicians that escaped Saddam and now are coming back into Iraq, but are Shiites and are now pretty much run by Iran. So these are the guys we're trying to hit. And they're the ones that also plan the protests on our embassy. And, that was in reaction to us bombing 30 of their members the day before or 2 days before. So this is literally a fight over Iraq that's happening right now. And I think that with the reason it's getting escalated to World War III is because I don't think a lot of people thought, and when even like the people, like a Max Boot or a neoconservative, they thought the U.S. was gonna just go in and blow up this dude, who has more clout than just as a military dictator or a military commander. You know what I mean? And I think that's why everybody's at edge. I don't think we're going to World War III. I think everybody needs to really calm down a little bit. But it is interesting. We have more stuff going on today in terms of back and forths, and I'm still actually taking notes right now.
Yeah, there's a few things I could bring up that I read about. There's a few things that just happened just now that Drudge just updated. So the first thing I wanted to bring up, there was this, and you know what? Drudge has, he's really gone downhill is the only way I can describe it. And he's constantly like fear-mongering the fear porn and the war porn. Yep. Like if you go to Drudge Report right now, it is just 100% war porn on like the first like splash page, and you gotta like scroll down to, get out of like this fear porn that he's putting up. Like rage builds, Iran eyes 35 targets, Trump has 52, rockets launched at U.S. troops in big bold letters, and then the top left is like all this nonsense of that shows this video where they're raising a red flag at this mosque, which signals a warning of severe battle to come. And, oh, man, we're really in for it now. They're raising this red flag, and here we go. And it's like, it's just like this fear porn, this war porn, and everybody's like getting their jimmies rustle about it. And it's like, oh, my God, we're on the brink of destruction, and we're going to have World War III. And there's some news that says that Iran launches cyber attack on U.S. government websites saying that they're always ready. Well, you know what? when you have a bunch of money and a bunch of hackers, you can launch a cyber attack on any website and take it down. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
DDoSing it. You just have a bunch of computers. So denial of service is what.